Hey guys, Van here from rcnightmare.com. Today I'm going to show you how to go about doing some repairs with a pull start on a Nitro engine. So as you can see here, these are all the parts of the pull start already taken apart, mostly to save time. So let's go through the different components here. Let's see. First I have the one-way bearing that attaches to the Nitro engine. This is what is then attached to the cord spool here, as we see. And the cord just goes around. Next we have the coil spring. This is actually what coils up the cord once you release it. Holding all of that is the housing, pull start housing. This particular unit is from an HPI Nitro truck. Yours may be different, may be constructed a little differently, but the general concepts of taking it apart, putting it back together, the components involved, everything like that should be fairly similar. The other parts we have down here is just a handle for the pull start, a couple spacers, and then this little piece of plastic, which is a little captive part for the spool and everything. Once the spool is on here with the coil spring, this part actually goes on and keeps everything inside the housing, which is kind of nice. This other part is just a end for the cord to be tied to. Okay, so with the pull start, there are some parts on here, specifically the cord, which will wear out over time. So eventually you'll have to replace or repair it. If you can get the cord, this is how you would go about repairing it, replacing the cord on the spool and then putting everything back together. Another thing that could fail over time is the coil spring. Just again, from wear and tear, this should last a while, but they could break. Actually, when I took this coil spring out, the end of it actually snapped off. So it was close to breaking anyways. What I've done is I've used the part that broke off as a kind of a template, and then using some needle nose, bent the now straighter end into a shape that will fit the cord spool. So as you can see there, just like that. Okay, so let's get started putting this thing back together. I'm going to start with the coil spring. So this is the coil spring uncoiled. So we're going to need to put some tension into it. One, so that we can get it into its housing, and another, so that we can have it do its job in pulling the cord back when you release. This can get a little finicky, so the way I like to do it is just put my hand on top of it all, and then with the end exposed, just pull. And then as you can see, the coil spring just wound up itself. And then I'll just continue this all around until it's fair size. When you're winding up the spring, be careful that you don't cut yourself, because the edge of the springs could be quite sharp. So let's just continue this. So there you have it. That's the coil spring all coiled up. Now your model may be slightly different. It'll have different keyed ends. This is keyed specifically for this housing and this spool. So with it coiled up, I'm just going to put it back into its housing now. Yours may be easier to work with, but let's see. So what's happened is I got the spring in there, but the end here just needs a little bit more coaxing. Just using an Allen wrench to guide it through. There it is, onto the plastic. So I'm just going to release the pressure. There. The coil spring is in its housing. Again, your model may be slightly different, but that's it. So with the coil spring in its housing, let's just set that aside a little bit and move to the next part. So with the coil spring in its chamber there, let's now look at the cord and spool. Okay, so this particular cord needs to be attached to the handle. Yours may break anywhere in between, either close to the spool or at the end. Over time, the cord will wear. As you can see here, I don't know how visible it is, but this will need to get replaced sooner or later again. When you're taking this apart, though, make note of the direction that the cord is wound around the spool. On this particular model, it goes this way. Okay? And then as you can see, I'm proceeding to wind the cord around the spool here. Once it's wound around it, I'm just going to plop it in there. Putting it in there is a little bit of a trick, so we'll see how that goes. I find that if you wind the cord on the spool first, before putting the spool into the assembly, it makes the process a little bit better, just because you don't have to wind the cord on the spool after it's in place. It may be a little bit difficult. So with the cord in there, let's go ahead. This part is a little tricky because the spring is not in the center. So what I have to do is fish this out a little bit and hope it doesn't just explode. Okay, so I finally got the spool onto the coil spring and in place, mostly in one piece here. So what I'm going to do now is just pull on the cord just to put some tension onto the springs, and then let's see how it winds up. Okay. Feed this through the housing. So as we can see, in the process of me putting the spool and cord in, some cord got loose. So let's just fish this out. Okay, so with the cord rewound a little bit back onto the coil here, I'm just going to take it and force it around the coil one more time here, just to give the spool a little more tension. This way, we'll always have it pull the cord all the way back. Okay. So now with the cord fed through the housing, it's going to go ahead and feed it through the spacer components here, all the while with my thumb on the center here to keep it all in place. Okay. First spacer. Second spacer. Okay. So at this time, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that little captive piece of plastic and just slide it into place. What this will do is actually keep the spool in place. It won't put any pressure on it. But at least I should be able to remove my thumb. Okay. Good. So with this end here, I'm just going to slide it through the handle. Okay. Be careful not to let it slip back in, because if it does, you're going to have to do it all over again. So what I just grabbed is the little end piece here, little tie off that I can tie this cord to. So make a little knot at the end. Good. You can trim the excess there, make it a little neater, but just for demonstration, I'm just going to let it go. There you go. There you have it, the pull start reassemble. We can test it out. Works good. Plenty of tension to bring the cord all the way back in.